Example 3, given the graphs of f of x right here and g of x, you're going to graph h of x, which is f of g times x, or sorry, f times g of x. So what that means is you have your f of x graph times your g of x graph is equal to an h of x graph. Now I drew a table for us. You do not actually have to show your work in a table. You can probably do this a little bit, but I want to just make sure when you're looking back, you know what we talked about. So we're going to write some things down. So I'm going to choose x values. If they're given some key points, I really want to make sure I use these key points. So I'm going to choose where x equals -1. And there my f of x graph is 1. My y value on the g of x graph is -2. So when I multiply these, since it's a multiply to get the h of x, we get -2. So let's fill in our table. Another key point, I would say intercepts are key points, and those are good to work with. So I'm going to choose those as well. So f of x is 2. My g of x is -2. So when we multiply that, we get -4. Let's choose where x equals 1. So f of x is 3. G of x is -2. We multiply, we get -6. Here we've got where x equals 3. So f of x is 3, g of x is 2. Multiply that, you're going to get 6. So now we're going to graph the x values with these h of x values. So I've got a new grid for us. So I'm just going to move this down a little bit. So we've got to plot -1, -2, 0, -4, 1, and -6, 3, and +6. Now, let's talk about if we put endpoints or arrowheads on this. I'm going to connect this for now here, though. So on the left side here, this graph does not go past -1, so the domain is restricted to -1 on your h of x graph. Now here, f of x does continue on, but g of x doesn't. So you wouldn't be able to add this f of x graph to anything, so this must be an endpoint here as well. So although you may see an arrowhead in here, your answer is got endpoint. So we say that the domain is restricted, so it's between -1 and 3. So the domain must be restricted. Now, again, I put this table for us. You could have, sometimes it's easier to graph these right over top. You could have went 1, I'll do this in pencil here, 1 times -2 right away and just plotted then that point -2. I could have went 2 times -2 and plotted -4 right away. I could have lined these up and went 3 times -2 and plotted -6 right away. And I could have then taken this last point here, 3 times 2, and plotted 6 right away. And then I could have drawn that there as well. So sometimes it's just nice to sort of see, if you don't want to write out the table, that lining up the points is also a good strategy.